is not something she's planning on giving up anytime soon.
Eventually, one of my complications will get the better of me. But until then, it's not going to win.
I'm Vanessa Bashania reporting.
Vanessa, thank you for that report. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I'm Michelle London. Denver 7 News at 5 starts right now.
I knew, you have a gut feeling, and I knew that this was the guy.
Staring into the eyes of a gunman.
I told him, don't do this. And he said, I'll show you what I'll do.
For the first time, a Lakewood agent shares her story, stopping the man on a shooting spree through Lakewood and Denver.
He made the choice to fire his gun at me, and he sealed his fate that way.
And now she's ready to get back to work protecting her community.
I actually start back here this month. So I'm ready.
And stocks take a plunge, led by disappointing earnings and a grim forecast from Target.
And looking to the future, Colorado Democrats want to make our state first in the primaries unless other states beat us to it.
You get to actually be part of the kind of like the compass of where these presidential races will kind of go.
And I've directed my team to do everything possible to ensure there's enough safe baby formula and that it's quickly reaching families that need it the most.
Breaking news at 5 o'clock, President Biden has invoked the Defense Production Act to help address the nationwide baby formula shortage. The Defense Production Act means the federal government will now prioritize key ingredients for formula production and requires suppliers to provide the needed resources to formula manufacturers.
The Defense Department will also now use military aircraft to fly overseas to get formula supplies that meet U.S. standards. Now, the president says his priority is to make sure safe formula gets to all who need it. Also new at 5, we are getting our first look at a fire burning along the entrance of the Great Sand Dunes National Park in South Colorado.
Now, for now, traffic to the park is being blocked off and the visitor center is closed as crews work to contain the flames. No word right now on just how large this fire is out at the Great Sand Dunes. So what we do know is that that fire was caused by lightning, which is why we're going now to Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson.
So 48 hours, though, we're under a winter storm watch and advisory. This is really something here this week, Mike.
That's why the banners are red. It's a Denver 7 Weather Action Day. Let me tell you, first of all, we have just warm temperatures out there and generally dry, although you did notice that Lyman was in the 60s. The winds haven't really kicked up too much yet, but aside from that little bit of humidity here where the thunderstorms are, it's very dry air. So we have a fire weather warning in effect for tomorrow all across the eastern plains and southern Colorado, but for Friday into Saturday, a winter storm watch that is not just for the mountains and foothills. It includes Denver, the downtown area as well. Here's the watch down to the south, and some of these storms, the ones that did cause the lightning that created that fire. But off to the northwest is a very strong cold front that will drop temperatures about 40 degrees from tomorrow to Friday. So our headlines moving forward are windy, hot and dry for Thursday, rain to snow on Friday, below freezing temperatures Saturday morning, and heavy mountain snow for Friday and Saturday. I'll show you how all this is going to come about coming up in about 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mike. You got your hands full tonight. Just days after Christmas last year, a gunman killed 5 people across Denver and Lakewood.
Those victims were Alicia Cardenas, Alyssa Gunn Maldonado, Danny Schofield, Sarah Steck, and Michael Swinyard. And during the chaos that day, Lakewood police agent Ashley Ferris encountered the suspect, mistaking him to be another officer, and he immediately shot at her, but she was able to fire back and she killed him.
And today her heroism and the heroism of other officers that day were honored in a ceremony in Lakewood.
Agent Ashley Ferris, you undoubtedly exhibited heroism that evening as you were engaged in a close-range gun battle with a homicide suspect. You looked into the face of the killer who had targeted you, and you chose to display an unbelievable amount of valor and courage.
And before these awards were presented, Agent Ferris spoke with Denver 7 CB Cotton.
And CB joins us live now from Lakewood. CB, amazingly enough, Agent Ferris wants to return to the field.
And Shannon, that's correct. But first, Ashley Ferris has to make a full recovery after being shot by the suspect. Despite the physical and emotional pain she's endured, she says she's the one who's grateful and ready to get back to serving her community.
I told him, don't do this. And he said, I'll show you what I'll do. And he displayed a gun from somewhere under his jacket or something, I can't recall. And then we were engaged in a gunfight.
A gunfight that was won by Lakewood agent Ashley Ferris after she encountered the man who shot and killed 5 people across Denver and Lakewood in December of last year.
The best thing he could have done was display his weapon to me, because at the time I didn't see his weapon. I didn't know who he was. He had police identifiers on. What if I had let him walk away? But instead, he made the choice to fire his gun at me, and he sealed his fate that way.
The suspect, armed with police tactical gear, shot her in the stomach, but while injured on the ground, Ferris continued to fire her gun, ultimately killing the man.
He was running. I was able to see when I hit him, he fell. And I remember thinking, okay, I've got him, he's down.
And soon after, she was rushed to the hospital.
The scariest part for me was when the other officer carried me into St. Anthony's Hospital. He had me over his shoulder and he was yelling, "Officer down, officer down." And thinking about that even right now, I still get goosebumps because it was hard for me to believe that I was the officer down.
She's risen far above the situation ever since. The bullet that entered her body broke apart and one of the pieces hit her sciatic nerve. For a while after, her right leg was paralyzed, but she's improved since being released from the hospital in January.
Now I'm able to walk. I don't have a limp anymore. It's really coming along, so I'm hopeful that I'll be running soon.
She's taking it one day at a time, and she's grateful for the support she's received along the way.
I also have another card here from a Lakewood family. This one was on my fridge the day after I got home from the hospital.
Agent Ashley Ferris has won this fight in more ways than one.
I can sit around and be mopey about my injuries and, be a sad Sally, but other people lost their lives and I didn't. I was fortunate and I have nothing to complain about. So emotionally, I think I'm doing great. I just can't wait to be back to work.
And speaking of getting back to work, Ferris returns to desk duty on Monday. Once she's able to run again, that's when she can enter back into patrol work. I should also note the suspect had a history of extremist and misogynist views. Ferris says the irony is not lost on her one bit that she was the one who ultimately took him down. Reporting live in Lakewood this evening, I'm CB Cotton, Denver 7.
She is impressive, CB. Thank you for that. And looking deeper tonight, many Colorado cities are now working towards tightening gun restrictions. Denver voted this week to ban concealed carry in parks and city buildings. And last night, Louisville took the first step in banning the sale and possession of assault weapons and large capacity magazines. City Council also voted to prohibit open carry in public spaces. A second vote on those measures will happen next month. Boy, stocks took a big drop today with the Dow tumbling more than 1,100 points in the worst trading day since June of 2020. The drop is in part due to large retail chains like Target and Walmart reporting lower profits. Shares of Target plunged 25% in the company's worst day since 1987. So tonight we're going in depth on the plunge and why these earnings drops are impacting the market. And you can watch that tonight on Denver 7 News at 10. 5 states held primary elections last night.
Now, Colorado's primaries aren't until the end of June, but tonight we want to look even further ahead to 2024.
Denver 7's Megan Lopez has more on the push to get our state to be one of the first to cast our primary ballots.
While I'll be a Democratic candidate,
politics is a lot about tradition, a lot about history, from party platforms to primaries.
Iowa and New Hampshire have been going first for decades and decades and decades.
With the top primary spot comes a lot of prestige. The first states on the calendar get a lot of attention, a lot of money. They also get to drive the conversation on the election issues that matter.
You start to kind of frame parts of the debate early on.
The states that follow tend to get lost in the mix, and Colorado is relatively late in the primaries.
In 2020, it was really irrelevant by the time we got to make a choice and have our voice heard in the primaries.
But now the Democratic National Committee might buck decades-long tradition because it says the first states are out of step with the party. And Iowa's 2020 caucus was sort of a debacle, opening the door up for other states to step in.
The process the Democratic National Committee could use to decide which states will kick off their primary election season could look a lot like a basketball bracket. That's because they want geographic diversity. So think Northeast, Midwest, South, and West. So far, more than 15 states have submitted their letters of intent to apply for one of those top spots. Colorado would be in the western bracket, and the state's Democratic Party says we're a good option.
We are just diverse, not just ethnically, but everything. Like if you look at, we have both farm rural, we have mountain rural.
And Howard Chow says the state has become increasingly important in national politics.
The Senate ran through Colorado last year. We don't make that 50-50 plus the VP plus one without Colorado winning Hickenlooper's Senate campaign.
But there can be some downsides, like a lot more of those political ads you probably dislike. Even so, election experts say Colorado could be edged out by states like Nevada.
Nevada is a very strong contender in terms of racial diversity and unionization and general election competitiveness and all these other things. Colorado kind of falls in the middle of the pack on a lot of these metrics.
But don't count Colorado out yet. The state's Democratic Party is certainly trying to make a compelling case for why we should be part of that tradition. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
States have until June 3rd to submit their applications. The Democratic National Committee is expected to make a decision at its meeting on July 8th. Every year, the Dumb Friends League helps 20,000 animals here in Colorado. Everything from dogs and cats to horses, rabbits, guinea pigs, and more. Well, now the shelter needs your help. Right now, the Denver 7 call center line is being answered by these volunteers from the league, and they are ready to take your donations.
As you can see here, all these guys, they just went through surgery. So this guy's got a little cone on his head. And so those dollars are going to give these dogs an opportunity to have a better experience here and a better experience once they get home as well.
The Dumb Friends League is a paid advertiser on Denver 7, and the number to call if you'd like to donate is 303-777-7492. You can call that number until 6:30 tonight.
We just are unsure of what is safe and what is not.
Her home survived the Marshall Fire, but her property is now polluted.
All of that was released into the air when the homes burned and settled into the ash footprint, settled into the lawn.
Marshall fire victims hit a new snag lying underneath their homes.
We really are kind of left trying to figure out on our own what exactly we're dealing with.
We may see fire, we will see rain, and we'll likely see snow.
Plus, a beloved Colorado trail is reopening much earlier than expected.